So I wanted to talk to you about tending to your most tender places. And what can often happen when we begin our healing journey, as we start meeting our wounds, our shadow material, our painful emotions, and what some people might even call their traumas, is that something initially kind of very sweet and enthusiastic rises in us, with a sincere desire to transform and ultimately to heal from that which we are holding and that which we are carrying, because we feel the weight of that, we feel the burden of it, and we notice the impact that it has on us and our relationships and really every aspect of our life. So there's this really genuine desire for healing, for transformation, and for change. And while we don't want to squash the essence of that desire, because in truth, the essence of that desire is what's driving us, we do want to pay attention to that, because it can very quickly twist and turn into a pushing and a trying to force our process forward, which is not what we need when we are coming into contact with our most tender places. What's needed in these moments is quite the opposite. What's needed is slowness, tenderness, patience, so much patience, because what we're meeting up with is something, yes, something very tender, something very raw, something very painful. And what that actually means is that it is surrounded by protection. Our psyche has formed a sophisticated web of protection around this wound. And, a huge part of healing any wound really is navigating this maze of protection. And the way that we navigate that maze of protection is not by pushing. The more that we push against that protection in our attempts to get to the core of the wound, to feel it, to heal it, is the extent to which that protection is designed to push back. You have to understand the intelligence of you, the intelligence of this organism that we are. And if there is a belief that coming into contact with this trauma is going to threaten your well-being or your survival in any way, then the protection is going to do whatever it can to make sure that you don't penetrate it, that you don't feel it. This is what suppression is. This is what denial is. Okay, but now we need to start talking about the identity, because it's not you that's pushing. You see, this is what we need to get clear on. It's not you that is resisting what's here. It's a part of you. It's another part of the issue. It's another part of the tangle. It's another part of the identity. It's another part of the wound, actually. It's the wound reacting to itself. But the main thing to get here is it's not you. Resistance to what is here, and pushing is a form of resistance. You know, wanting change as a kind of need is resisting what's here. And that is different from this natural onward movement of evolution, because there's pushing in it and there's need in it. So what the wound is actually designed to do is to resist anything except presence. Because actually this is what the wound needs more than anything, is presence. And presence is your true identity. So what this wound needs is you, the real you. You at your most essential, as that loving, neutral, and impartial presence that doesn't push, that doesn't need. And you see, then there's no need to accept the wound. Presence is naturally welcoming and accepting. Presence is that holding space for whatever arises. Acceptance is already the case. It's an inherent quality of presence. So accepting is not something you do. Acceptance is something that happens when we're resting in our true identity as presence. No pushing, no pulling. And yet there is this natural curiosity that emerges. And can you really feel the difference between being inquisitive about what's here, moving towards what's here, these tender places, from a place of curiosity, rather than a place of needing or wanting to resolve it or fix it or change it? There's a difference. It's a subtle difference, but it's quite profound. And, you know, there is this deep understanding that emerges when you experience what happens, when you can sit with your most tender places in presence. That change does happen. Change does happen. Healing does happen. But it's not coming from a place of needing it to happen. You see, and you know, we all know what this is like particularly in like romantic and intimate relationship, that when you pursue someone from a place of need, urgency, desperation, what happens? They move away, they withdraw. But that doesn't mean that we need to squash our genuine desire and forward movement towards that human being, you see. So we can rest in that deep, authentic, natural desire for healing, for resolution, for change. But we do that from this deep resting in ourselves as presence. And in the same way that we might approach a very scared animal or a child that's very upset, we relax back into that loving holding space and we open our arms to that pain, to that fear. And we allow it, actually, in the same way that we might be very still with a scared animal and kind of allow it to come to us, you know, put the hand out maybe and allow it to smell the hand and kind of start to figure out if you're safe or not. It's really the same way with these tender places. So when we're approaching all of this protection that's in place, we have to realize that, you know, meeting that protection, which, you know, is a form of resistance, but it's good to understand that actually its function is protection. Meeting that protection is just as important, if not more important, than meeting the wound. Meeting the wound at the core of that protection. Because as we meet these places in us that are protecting, and these are aspects of the identity, we have all kinds of faces of the ego, you could say, or aspects of the identity that have been forged over time that we're very familiar with, that are protecting our most tender places, and they can manifest in a number of different ways, including addictive and compulsive behaviors even. Those are forms of trying to manage the wound. When we meet these layers one at a time, and we allow them to realize that we're not trying to push them away or push through them, we're not trying to banish them, then they start to relax. They realize that we're a safe space, and that there is a trust, you could say, a trust that presence is now the case, and in this presence, the wound can be revealed, the wound can be held, and the wound can be healed.